Okay, this is the final part, part 3, replace the carburettor back on an EX650. Okay, we have the carburettor. That's the linkage from the arm, and there's the governor arm. Okay, so what we're going to do is replace this now. So we need to put the linkage into the hole onto the carburettor. That goes on that way towards, so slip that on there. And then slide the governor arm onto the other end of the link. I don't know if I can do it, a bit shaky there. Okay, so we'll replace this now. You can see the action there that it has. So let's get that on. Let's slide it forward and push it on. Now this is important when you push this onto the shaft. If it's a bit difficult because you've got rust there, clean the rust off the shaft coming out of the engine. You'll make it a lot easier. Or another way is just to open up the bottom of the pinch on the bottom. Now I'm pointing towards the oil breather. Now the reason why I'm pointing towards that is when it goes in, it traps underneath a little tab there. Make sure that happens because it can snag the throttle. So you make sure it's behind the little tab, so it can't snag anything. Right, so we'll put this onto the shaft now. Make sure your washer's there and the spring at the back. Okay, and it should be a nice easy action to push it on. If you're finding you get some resistance there, basically clean that shaft off. Okay, check the operation, make sure it's not snagging the oil breather tube. Make sure you've got a good action there. Lovely. Right, so now that's done, we need to put the spring on. Okay, it can go either way around. So it connects up near the frequency selector switch. I don't think you Americans have a frequency selector switch because you're at 36 you're at 3600 RPM, which is 60 Hertz. Anyway, that's the spring connected back up. Next thing we're going to do is basically make sure that we've got this adjusted. Now the direction of travel is from right to left. Now it's in full throttle position, so therefore if it's going from right to left, that means that the rotation when it's running is counterclockwise on the shaft coming out of the engine. So therefore we need to turn the shaft clockwise. Okay, so we'll get a pair of pliers. Now it helps if you've got a bit of drag on this, so you can tighten up that pinch bolt just enough that you can move the shaft. So you make sure that the shaft is basically turned fully clockwise because the direction it goes is counterclockwise, as you can see. So that'll make sure that the flap on the end of that shaft is making contact with the governor. If you don't do it right, the machine will overspeed. Okay, I'm just putting a little bit of pressure on that so I can get my pliers in there. Just doing it enough to basically give me a little bit of friction so it doesn't move. Now make sure you push the carburettor up fully onto the studs and just hold the lever gently in place and then turn it with the pliers clockwise. Okay, make sure it's fully clockwise over. There, look, that's clockwise. Now once you've done that, lock down the pinch bolt. That will be correctly set. That's the pinch bolt locked down. You don't have to really tighten it down, just enough to make sure it's not going to come loose. Okay, and that's the action there. Alright, just double check you've got everything right. If you're not sure you've got it adjusted properly, undo the pinch bolt and do it again. It's always best to get it right. Now you can understand why we've lifted this up and take the case off, because you just cannot get the governor arm off the shaft. Okay, we're going to put the air filter back on. First off, there's a spacer. Make sure the flat bottom is at the bottom when you replace that. Okay, at the bottom. And the next part we will put on will be the air filter box. Now I'm going to show you there's a 3 holes in the, well, 4 holes actually, but you make sure that's where the oil breather goes, and make sure your 2 spacers are in there. Okay, they do tend to push off. Okay, there's the 2 spacers there. Yeah, you might find it's a little bit tricky just to get them on, just make sure the spacers, you might have to take it off a couple of times to put the spacers back in place. Looks like I've done that here. So the spacer pushed out there, replace the spacer. Very, very easy to lose those and forget that they're there, but you do need that. Make sure you get your oil breather in there. Make sure it's not snagging at the back. Okay, I'm having a wee bit of difficulty with one of these spacers here. Okay, that's done. So once we've got that in place, we need, now this little device here stops the air filter being sucked up right up to the back of the air filter box. So we need to put that on next, and then your 2 nuts with the 10mm socket. Always check that you've got everything right. As I say, that oil breather pipe, always check that that's not snagging, because the machine, it's in full throttle position. If it can't slow down, you could take something out. Just to say, the worst case scenario, the alternator could go. You could also take out the capacitor, because these are what we call capacitor compensated machines. There's an 8 microfarad or 8.4 microfarad capacitor controls the output voltage. You could also take out the governor as well. So it's important you do not let this machine overspeed. And you'll soon know, if you start it up and she really goes over the top, you've got something wrong. Shut down, investigate, see what you've done. Okay, that's the air filter together. Now what we need to do is get the screwdriver out from the back end there that's holding the machine up, and settle this machine back down into its mounting holes, and put the 2 nuts on the bottom. If you remember, we took those off. Now I'm not going to do a complete assembly. I think you'll remember how to put everything back together. You know, putting the casing on and all the other bits and pieces. I will point out about making sure you get the choke cable in right, i.e. you slot it into the guides within the carburettor for it, and make sure that the spring is towards you, not the other side of the carburettor, because a lot of people make that mistake. So you can actually see I've got that already connected up there. Okay, that's it. So if you've got any queries, just email me. My name's Tony Bailey. Cheers now. Bye bye.